My brother didn't just break my daughter's heart that day. He shattered something inside me that I didn't even know was still holding on. What followed was a spiral of betrayal so deep, so calculated, it threatened to unravel our entire family, but not in the way anyone expected. Main story. It was Mia's 8th birthday last Saturday. We kept it small, a few balloons, a homemade cake, her favorite mac and cheese, just close family. She'd been counting down the days, buzzing with anticipation, waking early to decorate handmade cards for everyone. But there was one thing she spent hours on, a drawing. It was her dream bakery, pink walls, shelves overflowing with cupcakes, a sign above the door in bubbly letters that read Mia's Treats, customers lined up on the sidewalk. She used glitter pens, even glued a tiny fake jewel on the sign for sparkle. It was a piece of her soul. She folded it carefully, wrote Uncle Mark's name in shaky cursive, and presented it to him like it was the most precious thing in the world. He barely glanced at it. His eyes skimmed over her painstaking work for a second. Then he chuckled, a harsh, dismissive sound, and tossed it onto the table. Pointless. She won't amount to anything. The words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. No one said a word. Not my mom, sitting right next to him. Not my dad, pouring himself more coffee as if he hadn't heard a thing. My sister, Jenna, was curled up on the couch, half asleep with a fever, probably missed the whole agonizing moment. But Mia just stood there, still holding the corners of the paper, her bright smile faltering, unsure whether to smile or cry. My heart ached for her, but a cold, quiet anger settled deep within me. I didn't speak. I didn't demand an apology. I simply took her small hand, picked up her coat, and walked out. The front door was still open when I pulled out of the driveway. The silence in the car was worse than anything Mark had said. It was the sound of a promise broken, a future dismissed, and my own quiet fury brewing. The next morning, I was folding laundry when my phone rang. It was Mom. I let it go to voicemail. She called again, and again. On the 4th try, I picked up. Her voice was already cracking, raw with tears. Please call the bank. Your sister's loan just got denied. I stood there, holding one of Mia's tiny socks. The loan? I'd completely forgotten. Jenna had mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, a mobile pet grooming business she wanted to start. She'd been saving, but her credit wasn't enough. I'd offered to co-sign if no one else could. She'd sounded so hopeful, so grateful, but I never followed through. Mark certainly hadn't helped. Mom and Dad had simply said they weren't comfortable. Jenna got sick and never circled back. And now, the loan was denied, and Mom expected me to fix it. I didn't tell her what I'd decided the night before. That I was done. Done pretending we were some loving, functional family. Done carrying the weight for a brother who never lifted a finger unless a camera was on him. Done trying to win approval from parents who made excuses for him every single time. I wasn't calling the bank, and I wasn't calling her back. Jenna would find out eventually, but I wasn't ready to explain yet. Not after what they'd done to Mia. Not after what they didn't do. This time, silence was the only answer they were going to get from me. Jenna didn't call me right away. A few days passed, maybe 4, before I finally got a text. Hey, not sure what happened with the bank. Just let me know if something came up. Hope Mia is okay. I stayed at the message. I remembered her, sick and curled up in her hoodie, apologizing for being too tired to help set up the cake. She hadn't even seen what happened with the drawing. For a while, that's what kept me from cutting her off completely. But it wasn't about her anymore. It was about me finally drawing a line. Mark had always been the golden boy. The one who could fail classes, drop out of college, crash Dad's truck, and somehow still be painted as the smartest, most promising one in the room. My parents built him up like he was some misunderstood genius. When he got fired from 2 jobs in 1 year, Dad actually said it was because his mind was too sharp for basic office work. Meanwhile, I was working 2 jobs, raising Mia by myself, and still sending the money every Christmas because Mom cried about her bills. Their response? You're responsible, like always. Then they'd move on. That's what I was to them. The one who handled things. The one who didn't need praise. The one who didn't need defending. So, when Mark tossed Mia's drawing and insulted her future like it was a joke, of course they said nothing. They never held him accountable. Not when he lost his last girlfriend over gambling. Not when he borrowed $900 from Jenna last year and never paid it back. Not even when he got drunk at Thanksgiving and called my daughter an accident. But this time, it felt different. Mia didn't talk much after that day. She stopped bringing out her notebooks. The little girl who used to fill the kitchen table with crayons and paper started putting everything away before I even walked in the room. Like she was embarrassed to be excited about anything. That did something to me I didn't expect. It made me colder, harder, not angry, just done. I stopped returning my mom's calls. Her name appeared on my screen every morning like clockwork. First thing, always around 8 a.m. I used to pick up without thinking. But now all I felt was tired, like I'd spent 30 years carrying a weight that was never mine. Midway subscribe line. If you're still with me, you know this story is far from over. Trust me, it gets even more unbelievable. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what happens next. Main story, part 2, and then it came. Saturday afternoon, a knock on the door. It was my dad. The first time he'd shown up without calling in years. He didn't even ask to come in. He just stood there, his face tight, and said one thing. We need to talk about what you're doing to this family. Not what Mark did to Mia. Not why I left her birthday party without a word. Not why I hadn't returned the messages all week. No, I was the problem now. Because I was the one pulling away. I closed the door. 2 hours later, Mark posted a picture on Facebook. Him, sitting poolside, holding a drink, captioned, "Family feist always." And in the comments, my mom wrote, "Proud of you, honey, no matter what anyone says." I didn't screenshot it. I didn't need to. I remembered every word. Jenna showed up unannounced the following Tuesday. I hadn't told her not to come, but I hadn't responded to her messages either. She stood on my porch holding a paper bag of Thai food like she used to when we lived in that awful shared apartment in college. She looked tired, still pale from being sick, her hair up in a messy bun, hoodie zipped to her neck like she was trying to keep from unraveling. I opened the door. Neither of us said hi. She just walked in and put the bag on the kitchen counter. The silence sat between us like a third person. Eventually, she said she'd found out what Mark had said to Mia. I didn't ask how. I figured someone finally filled her in. She told me she was sorry. Genuinely sorry. But she didn't ask why I hadn't called the bank. She already knew. She said it wasn't about the loan anymore. She didn't even want it. Then she dropped a bombshell. I'm leaving. At first, I thought she meant for the day. But no. She meant Oregon. A one-way ticket. She'd been accepted into a year-long wildlife rehab internship she applied for months ago, back when she still thought her life was stuck. She hadn't told anyone. I didn't say anything. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't expect to feel relief. She was the only one in that family who still had something real in her. Maybe the only one who could walk away without dragging a trail of fire behind her. She said she wasn't telling them until she was already gone. I told her Mia would miss her. She promised to come to Mia's recital the following weekend, her first time performing a solo. But the recital never happened. 2 nights later, at 3:14 a.m., my phone rang. It was Jenna. She sounded panicked, not crying, just sharp. "You need to check your email right now." Still half asleep, my mind racing, I opened it. There was no subject line. The sender was some random Gmail address I didn't recognize. Inside were screenshots, bank documents, loan agreements, all with my name. I scrolled through them in silence. My name, my address, my social security number. $7,200 transferred from an online lending company, straight to a pet supply wholesaler in New Jersey. In the transaction notes, business startup package, mobile pet grooming van supplies, signage. Veka. The business name even used Jenna's middle name. I just stared. Then, it hit me like a gut punch. It was Mark. He didn't just steal money. He didn't just lie. He had taken Jenna's idea, forged my identity, and used the loan to set up the business himself. All while letting Jenna believe her application had been rejected. All while letting Mom call me crying, thinking I'd backed out. All while acting like he didn't care. That smug post, sitting poolside with his stupid sunglasses, captioned "Family First." He probably posted it right after the money hit his account. The rage was a cold, simmering fire in my veins. I called the lender first thing in the morning and filed a fraud report. I froze my credit, talked to a lawyer quietly, carefully. I knew better than to make noise too soon. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about Mia. And Jenna. And every single year I'd spent cleaning up after people who never bothered to clean up after themselves. I didn't tell my parents. Not yet. Let them keep believing Mark was brilliant. Let them post about how proud they were. I was going to wait. Wait for the moment they needed something. A favor, a rescue. And then I'd show them the true cost. My lawyer, specializing in family-related financial abuse, wasn't surprised. Said she sees it all the time. Siblings using siblings, parents pretending not to notice. Jenna, already packing for Oregon, sent me everything I needed. Emails, links, timestamps, even the ad that showed up in her inbox. It was almost too easy to connect the dots. Mark hadn't even tried to cover his tracks. The fake email had his childhood nickname in it, a nickname only we called him. Still, I hadn't told my parents. I was saving that. Mia's recital was that Saturday. She wore a blue dress she picked out herself, with tiny music notes stitched along the bottom. I sat in the third row, my phone ready, and watched her walk up to the piano without a hint of her usual sparkle. She looked around once, probably for Jenna. She played perfectly, every note. But when it ended, she didn't smile. She didn't even bow. She just walked off stage and sat down quietly next to her teacher. That's when I made the final decision. Monday morning, I dropped Mia off at school early, told her I'd be picking her up later for a surprise, and drove straight to my parents' house. I didn't call ahead. I waited in the driveway until Mom opened the door in her robe, holding a mug with "Best Grandma" on it. I handed her the manila envelope. No explanation, just said, "You should read this before you decide whose side you're still on." She asked if I was serious. I didn't answer. I walked away. Inside that envelope was everything. Copies of the fake loan under my name, proof of the funds going to a pet grooming supplier, a copy of the PayPal receipt with Mark's email. I also included the police report and the fraud case number. By noon, Dad called. I didn't answer. Then, Mom. A long, rambling voicemail. She started with, "Effie, honey," and ended with, "You're tearing this family apart." In between were a dozen excuses, a half-baked theory that maybe Mark had been confused, that it couldn't have been intentional. Not one mention of Mia, not one word about Jenna. Later, Mark's business page quietly disappeared from Facebook. He'd proudly called it J&M Grooming, even used an old childhood picture of him and Jenna. Gone. Instead, he posted a vague status. People will always try to tear you down when you're doing better than them. Keep grinding. Stay silent. Prove them wrong. Mom commented with red hearts, "Proud of you no matter what." I took a screenshot and closed the app. That night, I sat Mia down and told her we were going to visit a new school, one with an art program that didn't treat creativity like a side hobby, a place where her drawings wouldn't be called pointless. She asked if Aunt Jenna would be there. I told her no. Jenna had already left for Oregon that morning. She'd texted me from the airport, "Take care of Mia. I'm proud of you." I told Mia that, too. The next morning, I called my accountant and swiftly severed every financial tie I still had to my parents. They'd even used a backup card I gave them for emergencies to buy concert tickets and dinner last month. I shut it down. removed them as emergency contacts on my business accounts, changed the lockbox code at my office. I didn't even tell them. Let them find out when they tried to reach. Mark called 3 days later. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. All he said was, "You're going to regret this." I didn't play it twice. I blocked him and deleted it. If there was any regret, it was that I hadn't done this sooner. The week after I blocked Mark, things got quiet. Too quiet. No more calls from Dad, no voicemails from Mom, not even those weird passive-aggressive texts. It was like the whole family had gone radio silent. I should have known that meant they were planning something. Friday afternoon, an email arrived from a lawyer. Not mine. Mark's. He was disputing the fraud claim. He claimed the loan was a family business arrangement, and I'd given verbal permission. Lies. Weiss. My parents submitted statements backing his story, saying I'd once vaguely supported a general-related investment, and Mark just took initiative. They weren't just covering for him. They were actively trying to trap me. I called my lawyer. She wasn't surprised. Said we'd be fine. Said people like Mark always try to turn the tables. But still, I sat there for a full hour, staring at nothing, while Mia colored next to me, humming a cartoon song. That night, I told her we were going on a weekend trip, just the two of us. I booked a last-minute Airbnb by the coast, packed a couple of bags, and drove 3 hours without checking my phone. We walked along the beach, ate overpriced grilled cheese. She brought her sketchbook again, the first time in weeks. When we got home Sunday evening, there was a letter taped to my front door. It was from Mom. No envelope, just a printed Word doc folded in half. She said she was heartbroken over how far I'd taken things, that family doesn't press charges, that Mark had always looked up to me, and this was just me misunderstanding his intentions. But the last paragraph was a dagger to the heart. She suggested Mia was sensitive, and I was setting her up for disappointment by putting so many big dreams in her head. I sat down on the floor, the letter still in hand, while Mia ran to her room to show me a drawing she made of the beach. And that's when I made the final decision. I wasn't cutting them off. They were already gone. Monday morning, I closed out the last shared file in the family Google Drive. I deleted every photo I was in from the shared album. I left the family group chat without a word. Changed my locks, just in case. When my lawyer called later, asking how I wanted to proceed, I said plainly, we pressed charges. Jenna texted me that evening from Oregon. I heard. Are you okay? I told her the truth. I felt like I could finally breathe. And then she said something I wasn't expecting. You know, he never wanted the grooming van. He just didn't want me to have it at first. It made everything even clearer. This was never about business. This was about control, about ego, about them needing me to stay where they were comfortable. Always giving, never asking, never fighting back. But now they had lost that version of me, and soon they'd lose everything else, too. 3 weeks after filing the official fraud complaint, I got the confirmation. The case was moving forward. The lender accepted the evidence. Mark was being investigated for identity theft. The funds were flagged. A court date was being scheduled. I didn't tell anyone in the family. Let them hear it from the knock on their door, the call they didn't expect, the paper they had to sign. I was done doing the emotional labor of warning people about the consequences of their own choices. What surprised me most was how quickly my parents turned from silent to desperate. Mom called from a new number, left a voicemail. She was sobbing again, but this time it sounded hollow, almost rehearsed. She said they were being dragged into something they never asked for, trying to keep the family together, and now they were at risk of losing everything. Then came the email from Dad. A full page, no greeting, no apology, just a request for financial help. Apparently, the mortgage was in trouble. That same week, I got a message from Mia's school. There had been an incident. Some girl pushed her on the playground. When the teacher asked why, the girl said, because her uncle's a thief and her family's in trouble. The girl's mom works at the bank. She'd overheard something. Mia didn't cry. Didn't even tell me herself. The teacher did. Mia said she didn't care. But that night, I saw her quietly put away her sketchbook again. That was it. I didn't call Mom. I didn't respond to Dad. I didn't send money. Not even when they started messaging from fake Facebook accounts pretending to be distant relatives. I blocked each one. And then I made it permanent. I updated my will, removing their names from every document, insurance, business emergency contacts, Mia's guardianship forms. I called the school, had them taken off the authorized pickup list, changed passwords, even closed the old email I'd had since college. I told Mia we were starting fresh. The final nail came when Mom showed up outside Mia's school. She wasn't allowed on school grounds anymore, but she stood across the street holding a bouquet of grocery store flowers. When Mia saw her through the window, she didn't run out. She didn't wave. She just looked at me and asked, "Can we just go home?" I said, "Yes." Mom never came back. 2 months later, the fraud case closed. The lender dropped the claim against me, confirming Mark as the sole responsible party. He was ordered to pay it back. He didn't show up to the hearing. A warrant was issued. His Facebook disappeared. I never heard from him again. Jenna still writes from Oregon. She's working with injured foxes now. Sent Mia a birthday card with a hand-drawn raccoon on the front. Mia taped it above her bed. As for me, I got accepted into a small business mentorship program for single mothers. I didn't even apply. One of my clients nominated me. The new school accepted Mia on a full scholarship. They saw her artwork during the tour and offered her a spot on the spot. She's drawing again. She's laughing again. Sometimes she still asks, why people like Uncle Mark are mean, why Grandma never says sorry. Ending. And I tell her the truth, the hard-earned lesson that this entire painful chapter taught me. Some people only know how to love you when you're small, when you stay quiet, when you give without asking for anything back. But once you stand up, once you ask for more, they can't love that version of you. And you know what, Mia? That's okay, because we love this version of us. Call to action. I'd love to know what you think. If you've ever had to cut ties with family who just couldn't see you for who you truly are, tell me about it in the comments below. What was your breaking point? I'm really curious to hear your stories.